Hi everyone, and welcome to our first case study from this year, the role of CNVs in increasing the diagnostic yield of WES. In today's webinar, we have with us Dr. Heba Hosni, medical liaison at Centogene, serving the MENA region. Heba completed her bachelor's degree in medicine and surgery at Cairo University. She then went on to complete her master's in human genetics and PhD in medical and clinical genetics at Ain Shams University, Egypt. During the webinar, she will discuss the following topics: WES intro and CNV overview, case studies, and lessons learned. If you have any question, please enter them into the Q&A chat and we will refer them back at the end of the presentation. Welcome, Heba. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, my dear colleagues and professors. I'm Dr. Heba Hosni, Medical Genetic Liaison of Centogene, and it will be my pleasure to be with you today and to discuss and to dive through my presentations through technical details regarding the copy number variants and different technical strategies available for detections, its impact on increasing diagnostic utility of genetic testing in general, whole exome sequencing in specific. Actually, when I was charged of preparing the presentation, I feel so excited because almost 2 years ago, I joined Centogene. And since then, I have gained a lot of experience in that field. I have seen many patients worldwide benefiting from the integration of the copy number variants within the exome analysis, how this increased the positive results, how this also impact the results of the patients and their family, in turn driving the medical decisions and counseling offered to them. So let us start our presentations with highlighting our missions in Centogene. Our goal is rapid medical diagnosis of inherited disease while converting our huge analytic informations into actionable results for physicians, patients, and pharmaceutical partners. Our continuous commitment to the global medical community is to provide an early and accurate diagnosis, seeking the continuous improvement of our therapeutic options. Our job doesn't end by delivering the medical report. This is done in collaborations with more than 60 medical experts, geneticists, and researchers working together with partners around the world, all aiming at the end of transforming the global genetic data we have into medical decisions. So in this slide, it is the wrap-up slide showing the diverse products we offer in the genetic fields, where in the middle we have our CentoCard, our simplified logistics solutions, which is a very safe and easy way for transportations. It's not requiring specific precautions and restrictions and can be kept at room temperatures. It is not considered, very important, it's not considered as a biological hazard, especially nowadays with the COVID crisis. And most of our genetic testing and our biochemical testing can be offered through the CentoCard. So at the top of our portfolio coming the whole exome sequencing Centoxome and the Centogenome, where it is the Centoxome is considered mainly with the coding regions and exon entry boundaries. The Centogenome is considered with the whole genome coding and non-coding and including the mitochondrial genome. They are the most two comprehensive tests, as we mentioned, worldwide, and they are helping in the reclassifications of many genes and variants also in genetic field. Regarding the specialties in medicine, we are offering also a diverse portfolio with including more than 45 panels covering most of the medical specialties, different clinical presentations. And since August 2020, we have integrated the copy number variants in the platforms of our panels. Also, part of our panels are considered with the cancer, having hereditary cancer panels, and we having also somatic oncogenetic panels. Regarding our main focus today within the copy number variants and the structural variants deletion duplications analysis, we offer genomic analysis through the conventional and the gold standard method chromosomal microarray, having two important products, CentoArray 750K and CentoArray highly definite CentoArray. And also we have the newly innovated method in-house CentoLCV, which is not depending on supplier ships. It's the main idea is depending on comparing the genomic analysis from the patient, the data from the patients to the human genomic reference. And this in turn have the capability of detecting of de novo copy number variants. Target analysis also for copy number variants can be offered with us through the MLPA, the qPCR, and the copy number variants through the NGS platforms. Regarding single gene sequencing, we offer sequencing for more than 6,500 genes via Sanger, via NGS, and also we have hotspot testing for familial known mutations, carrier screening for previously detected mutations, and we can offer them for more than 6,500 genes. And regarding the repeat expansion disorders, this is a very important specific category of disorders and medical Mendelian inherited disorders in medicine have a specific methodology and requiring specific methodology for analysis. We offer that in-house through the restricted fragment length polymorphism and Ripple primer, like for instance, in case of Fragile X spinocerebellar ataxia, myotonic dystrophy, and other disorders related to that category. In the biochemical field and the metabolic disorders, we have a long and strong experience with innovating for biomarkers approved and used worldwide for Fabry, Farber, Gaucher, and Niemann-Pick with high sensitivity and specificity. They are helping many patients for screening, monitoring of the treatment and enzyme replacement, and also having a prognostic value. In addition, we are developing 25 other biomarkers related to metabolic disorders will be added soon to our portfolio. For enzyme activity, we offer enzyme assay for more than 25 metabolic disorders, and we have a biochemical genetic panels considered, for instance, with lysosomal storage. And for the preventive portion and sections of genetics, we have two important products, which is the CentoScreen and the CentoNIPT. The CentoScreen is a panel designed including 330 autosomal recessive and X-linked recessive with the most frequent genes worldwide, and it is applicable for those premarital counseling coming to seeking to detect a possibility of having being carriers of known genetic disorders, especially if there is a family history of genetic disorders and no previous molecular genetic testing has been performed. Also those couples who have suffered from getting experience of recurrent infantile death, neonatal death, without also performing a definite molecular genetic testing. For our CentoNIPT, it is the non-invasive prenatal diagnosis test that it is the first trimesteric screening approved worldwide and now recommended by the American College of Gynecology and Obstetricians, the European College of Gynecology and Obstetricians. Our CentoNIPT can offer screening for trisomy 21, 18, 13, 6 chromosomal aneuploidy with sensitivity and specificity reaching 100%. So our presentation today will be divided into three main categories. The first category will be considered with discussing the features of whole exome, the copy number variant definitions, the different strategies available for copy number variant detection through the NGS platforms, the advantage of detecting the copy number variants through the NGS platforms, our experience in-house in Centogene regarding this specific type of mutations and its detection through exome analysis. The second part of our presentations will be demonstrations of all these technical information and how it impacts the results of the patients through interesting case studies. And these case studies including medical history, family pedigree, paraclinical and diagnostic approach through the performed test, molecular test, and the interpretations of the results. The third part of and the last portion of our presentations will be discussing previous data and publications, considered mainly with the impact of copy number variant increasing diagnostic utility of whole exome sequencing in different category of genetic patients, and also the limitations. And finally, we will have the summary and the take-home message. So we're starting with the features of our Centoxome. Our Centoxome is covering more than 20,000 genes, including the coding regions and the splicing site, without including the mitochondrial genome. We are offering and ensuring highly uniform coverage and depth reaching to 100x. This is a very important technical point regarding the copy number variant detections in specific that require uniform coverage and high depths to differentiate between false and true calls of copy number variants. And also more than 98% of these target bases are covered more than 20x. For single nucleotide variants and indels, the sensitivity is more than 99.6, and the confirmations of low quality single nucleotide and indels are done via Sanger. For the copy number variants, the resolution can be up to the level of exon for homozygous deletions, and heterozygous copy number variants more than 3 subsequent exons, sensitivity more than 80%, and confirmation is done via orthogonal method according to the size of the copy number variant detected, whether via MLPA, whether via microarray or qPCR. So in every presentation of Centogene, we are highlighting the role of medical data and its impact in increasing diagnostic utility of genetic testing. 60% of the input of the results is depending on the quantity and the quality of the data sent from the physician's side. It is the very important tools and one of the keystones for curation and annotations of variants. And this is what discussed in many times in previous publications. And according to our experience in Centogenes, we have also published that data in European Journal of Human Genetics in 2017, that sending from 5 to 15 in our results, sending from 5 to 15 HPO terms, diagnostic utility reaching 39%. This is, of course, integrated by the highly qualified genetist and bioinformaticians team we have in Centogenes, that ensuring accurate detections of the disease causative mutations, saving time, of course, and improving the quality of the reports that we provide to our customers and including our physicians and patients. So what is the definitions of the copy number variants? Simply, the initial definition started by Redden et al. In 2006, where it is any segment of DNA about 1 kilobase pair deleted or duplicated in compared to the human genomic reference. These initial definitions would evolve and evolved to include different resolutions of deletion duplications, starting from exon to chromosome. And again, as most of our changes in the genome is not considered as a disease causative mutations, also copy number variants would consider as a major source of genomic variation and evolution. As we can see from below, this is a diagram showing that different copy number variants for the specific segments is different from one individual to the another. For individual 1, we have here 4 copy number variants maternally inherited. From the father paternally inherited, we have 6. For individual 2, it is 6, and from the paternal side, it is 3. This is the major source of variations between us from one individual to another, and small portions was considered as a disease-causing mutations. Till now, have many and hundreds of Mendelian disorders and genetic disorders has been linked to copy number variants as the causative mutations of the disease. And according to previous statistical analysis published in many publications previously, they have found that 15% of genetic patients performed the clinical genetic testing have got copy number variants as the disease-causing mutations. You can imagine 15%. This is a large number of patients that can be missed from us if we are not selecting the appropriate methodology for testing. This requiring that copy number variant should be put in consideration in every test, that it can be the causative mutations on the other side if we are suspecting a genetic disorder. And by the way, as we see, this disorder is very frequent, and most of us see it in many patients in his daily practice, in his clinic. For instance, the Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease type 1, PMP222, 50% of the causative mutations within this gene is duplications. For X-linked ichthyosis, 55.4% is deletions. For hemoglobin E1 related disorder, we have 34.7% related mutations are deletions. And for DMD related disorder, 60% are deletions. So in this slide, it is an illustrative slide showing the different resolutions of copy number variants and the corresponding test that can be, according to this slide, that it is appropriate for testing, for detecting. For at the large size copy number variants at the level of the chromosome, we can use the old conventional method, the karyotype, the microarray, the send to LCV. For the moderate size deletion duplication mutations, we can utilize the microarray, the MLPA, the qPCR, and the NGS-based copy number variant detections. For the exons, this is a very small size and the high resolutions of copy number variants. can be detected via MLPA, qPCR, and NGS-based copy number variant detections. As we can see that the NGS-based copy number variant is capable of detecting different resolutions in one test. So comparing the different available approaches and tests for copy number variant detections and their resolution, different resolutions they offer and the limitations each test have in specific. So we'll start with the old and the first innovative method, which is the karyotype, with the resolution about 5 to 10 megabase per. This cannot detect submicroscopic deletion or duplications below that resolutions and cannot detect, of course, single nucleotide variants, mosaicism less than 10%, and uniparental disomy. For fluorescent in situ hybridizations, the resolution about 100 kilobase per, and it is the fluorescent probe designed according to the specific part of chromosome, to a whole chromosome, to specific genes. And so it is considered at the target analysis. It is not considered at the wide genomic analysis. And we can detect from the fluorescent emitted by annealing to its complementary sequence, can detecting the fluorescent emitted emissions under fluorescent microscope, but it cannot detect, of course, nucleotide, single nucleotide variants, cannot detect mosaicism less than 10%, and uniparental disomy. For the MLPA, which is the kits provided from a known corporate, according to my knowledge, there are 400 known kits in the market related to specific disorders, and the resolutions are different up to the single exon. But again, it is considered also a probe depending, not genomic-wide analysis. It is specific related to disorders, and not all the disorders have available kits for MLPA. It cannot detect, of course, single nucleotide variants, balanced translocations, inversions, and the same struggling as the previous two methods with mosaicism. The array-based techniques, including the chromosomal microarray and the highly definite single nucleotide polymorphism-based array, the resolution is variable from 20 to 100 kilobase per. It cannot detect limitations. It cannot detect, of course, balanced rearrangement, mosaicism less than 10%, single nucleotide variants, and it is supplier depending on already prepared chips provided from the corporates by known resolutions. And so this cannot be tolerated according to the patient's needs and according to his mutations. So we will come to the last two recent added to the detections of methods for copy number variants, which is through the whole exome sequencing platforms and through the whole genome sequencing platforms. They are capable of detecting different resolutions, starting from the exon at single exon for 50 base pair, up to genomic-wide 150 kilobase per genomic-wide. And for the whole genome sequencing, the adding on is that it can detect the copy number variant whenever it is detected and whenever it is present in the genome, including coding and non-coding regions. So the limitations here for the whole exome will be detections of balanced rearrangement and the mosaicism, the same as the previously discussed method, less than 18%, but it can detect aneuploidy, chromosomal aneuploidy as being genomic-wide analysis. For the whole genome sequencing copy number variant detections limitations, it is scanty, but it is dependable on the bioinformatics pipeline used from one lab to the other. So what is the advantage we have from copy number variant detections through the NGS data? It's of course integrating two different mutations in one test. It is the single nucleotide variant with the copy number variants in one test. It is saving time. It is cost effective. It is capable of detecting different resolutions of copy number variants in one test, starting from exon to genomic and chromosomal aneuploidy. Of course, being genomic analysis, it is capable of detecting de novo copy number variants, can give, of course, more precise detections of the breakpoints of these deletion duplication mutations. And this is, of course, be more useful with whole genome sequencing. So in this the second part, we'll be discussing the copy number variant tools, the basic strategies available, and the idea for how to detect it through the NGS data. And we have already 5 known strategies. We will start with the one which is the commonest used in the whole exome sequencing, which is the red depth mapping. Simply, the idea of the red depth mapping is depending on comparing the expected number of reads from a certain segments of DNA and compared to the actual number of reads we have from the patients. So for instance, if we're having homozygous deletions, there is no reads which can be is not available and is not detected. If we have duplications, the number of reads will be duplicated. Again, this is the commonest method used in the whole exome analysis, but of course it has limitations. One of the limitations that there is the availability of the reads is depending on difficulty in the capture. Bias regarding to amplifications, also problems, especially if it is the CG rich regions, and it's related more to the NGS analysis limitations. And again, I need to normalize the data by comparing it to other samples in the same run. So for instance, if I'm detecting a rare variant, deletion duplication mutations, I have to check for the other samples in the same run, whether it is available or not. If it is available, it's less likely to be a true code. The second method is the paired end mapping, where the paired end mapping simply was the first method innovated to detect copy number variants through the NGS platforms, depending on detecting the distance between two segments of DNA. And we already know from the reference genomes how they are aparted. So if the distance between them are shortened, indicating deletions, if they are aparted, it's indicating insertions. The limitations, of course, it is low performing a tool in repetitive regions, complex regions, and also with duplications of small size. The third method is the split thread mapping, and it's depending on detections of the breakpoints. This may be, again, very useful with the whole genome because the breakpoints can be detected whenever it is located in the genomes we are covering within the technique, the coding and the non-coding regions, but it will be limited for the whole exome sequencing as we are considered according to the features of the product with the exons and the splicing site. The fourth method is different from the previous three discussed strategies, that in the previous three discussed strategies, we're starting the initial step by comparing reads from the patients to the genomic reference for detections of copy number variants. The initial step here is different. We're starting the initial step by reconstructing DNA fragments, starting from simply overlapping reads, contigs from short to long, and then comparing these assembled contigs to the reference genomes. This can detect the discoordinate copy numbers are identified, and the method of direct assembly without using reference is known as a de novo assembly, but we can see it is a very sophisticated and extensive computational method and have poor performance, of course, in repetitive regions. The fifth approach and the fifth strategy is the commonest used worldwide and in the most of the genetic labs, where it is the combining two or more of the previous discussed tool. As each tool has its limitations, has its own strengths and weakness. So the utilizing of two or more strategies can help to have the advantage of the unique features of each tool and increase the sensitivity of the true codes. This is an example of the different tools available in the market for copy number variants detections, and thanks to the great effort exerted from the bioinformaticians worldwide to improve the pipeline of copy number variants calling, and they are improving the tools and using, as we mentioned, combined approaches, and each approach, of course, has its own strength points, and this combination, of course, is improving the sensitivity for true calls. So they are numerous and many of them are utilized and examined to be very successful worldwide in genetic labs for adding copy number variants in the NGS platforms. So what is our experience in Centogene? Our experience in Centogene regarding the copy number variant in specific, from our experience, we have developed our own tools, and we have two different platforms, one for the sequencing, which is the CMV tool, and the other for the annotations, which is the CentoFit and the Annonate structural variants. The first one for the analysis and the sequencing is the CMV tool consisting of combined approaches in our using multiple tools in our pipelines, and this helps us to reach sensitivity up to 95% and to differentiate between the false positive and the true calls of copy number variants. variants. Also, the platforms of the annotations is also helping us to predict the pathogenicity of the copy number variants detected, its role in the disease, and also this is saving time and effort and result in accurate diagnosis at the end. So our platforms of analysis and sequencing is a CMV tool. We are combined, as we mentioned, we are using combined approaches, reaching our sensitivity by our experience. These approaches has been examined in-house through hundreds and thousands of whole exome data we have utilized, and we find finally that combining these approaches have reached the sensitivity up to 95%. We can see here from the chart that we have a sensitivity for the single exon up to 70%. For the rest of the resolutions, more than one exon, the sensitivity is reaching 100%. This is producing, of course, a balance between the true and false positive copy number variant detections. Regarding the annotations and the platforms for analysis, we have the innate structural variants, which is basic, depending on very important points, and we are improving it to bettering the potential, interpreting the potential pathogenicity of the structural variant detected, and to differentiate and to filter out the false positive results using many tools in this annotation, starting with the gene-based annotations, whether the mutations detected in a gene is previously reported in OMIM, whether this gene is intolerant to mutations, like for instance, neurodevelopmental genes with early onset and severe presentations, haploinsufficiency with autosomal dominant disorders. This mutation has been, copy number variant mutation, has been previously published in the database of genomic structural variants in Southern Genome, also in the database of structural variants, DICEVR, and also how to annotate and to detect the breakpoints. This would be very challenging, especially if it is occurring within CG-rich region, and how to interpret that, and also within repetitive regions, and also within a pseudo genes. We are also utilizing the external mutational database, Clinivar, and the human genomic mutational database, and in-house annotations, our huge atlas of copy number variants we have in-house from more than 440,000 cases analyzed till now. This have made us having a huge atlas structuring a large data coming from the different arrays and MLPA we have performed, stored in our QRepo, CentOMD, which is considered the first repository of data worldwide, and more than 120 countries, different senators. This is again very important tool. Our CentOMD huge data is improving our the results and the quality of the reporting of the variants we provided to our customers, physicians and patients. So after taking you through a journey with the technical details and the different strategies of copy number variants, you can ask me, what is this importance? How this will affect the patients? What is this will how can this impact the results and the reports of Centogene? So the best demonstrations for that is through case studies, and we have prepared 5 interesting cases, focusing mainly on the copy number variants as results for these patients. Starting the first case with a 5-year-old male, where the parents are consanguineous and healthy. He presented with delayed motor language development, intellectual disability, movement disorder, and he previously performed extended metabolic screening pointing to creatine deficiency syndrome. Whole exome sequencing was performed at Centogene for the index, and we can see here that according to IGV image, there were deletions. For the control, we start from the above. These gray boxes are related to exons. This is the first exon. The second gray box is the second exon, the third exon, and so on. For the control case, this is the availability of data and reads starting from the first exon to the last of the exons. And for our index, no reads are available starting from the first to the third exon. And this confirmed the deletions of exon 1 to exon 3 of GMT gene. By the way, this is medically treatable conditions by applying creatine monohydrate. This can prevent the sequelae of complications. And this is also an example how the genetic testing can impact and direct the medical management of patients. The second case is for 1 year, 2 months old male, where the parents are consanguineous and healthy, presented with global developmental delay, mild microcephaly, and oropharyngeal dysphagia and rigidity, where whole exome sequencing trio was performed at the Centogene for the index and the parents, including copy number variant analysis, and the analysis detecting homozygous, likely pathogenic homozygous deletions in composing exon 1 of the VLDLR genes and segregating imposed parents, and this was consistent with the genetic diagnosis of autosomal recessive cerebellar ataxia, mental retardation, and disequilibrium syndrome. Here is the IGB image again, and from this is below for the samples in the same run, and the below line is related to the genomic reference of the VLDLR gene. The blue boxes is for the exons. This is the first exon, the second exon, and so on. For the reads, this is the samples in the same run. There's availability of reads for that exon. For our patient, there's absence of reads. And this confirmed the deletions in composing exon 1 of the VLDLR gene. The third case is for healthy parents, non-consanguineous. They have experienced getting birth to a male patient 4 months old with abnormality of movement, cerebellar ischemia, cerebellar palsy, craniosynostosis, EEG with generalized spikes, infantile encephalopathy, and examination showing that he had a microcephaly, truncal hypotonia, exaggerated reflexes, infantile spasm, and myoclonic seizures. So whole exome sequencing trio, including copy number variants, was performed for the index and the parents, and a pathogenic one copy gain, about 1,540 kilobase pair, corresponding to the long arm chromosome 17 band 12, was identified in the index, and this was consistent with the genetic diagnosis 17q12 microduplication syndrome. So accordingly, this is a large size copy number variant that needs to be confirmed by applicable method, which is according to that size should be confirmed by the microarray. We here have pictures from the microarray. We see here that is the basal line. This is the expected number of amount of copy number variant to be seen from these regions, band 12, which is 0. The pink dots above the line is indicating increase in the dosage of this band 12 on the long arm chromosome 17. This confirms the gain and the microduplication 17q12 microduplication syndrome. Regarding the segregation analysis for the parents, the father was negative, but surprisingly, the mother was having the same duplications. And as previously, this is explained and elaborated because the disorder of 17q12 has been previously reported to have reduced penetrance, with previously demonstrating phenotypically normal carriers. And this is explained why the mother is the same, having segregating with the same mutations, but it is normal. The confirmations for the mother duplication is done also by MLPA via microarray And as we see here, the basal line is 0, and increase in the amount in the blue dots above the line confirm the 17q12 microduplications. This will be very challenging case and for the genetic counselor to elaborate to the family that different family members are having the same mutations, but some are affected and the others are normal. Also will be challenging for the next pregnancy to use options which will be limited and focused on pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. The fourth case is for healthy parents where they are non-consanguineous, also experience getting birth to a female patient 1 year, 9 months old, born with cesarean sections, manifesting with abnormal head movement, global developmental delay and hydrocephalus, and biochemical investigation showing hyperlinemia, hyperammonemia, hyperarginemia, hyperglutenemia, hyperprolinemia, and increased serum lactate. Cranial ultrasonography detected dilated third ventricle, dilatation of the lateral ventricles. So Centogene trio was performed at Centogene for the index and the parents, and including copy number variants. Surprisingly, the patients have 2 duplications, dual diagnosis, 2 pathogenic copy number variants. The first is the de novo not segregating in post parents, about 38 to 190 kilobase pair, corresponding to the short arm chromosome 9, and this was consistent with the genetic diagnosis of trisomy 9p. In addition, another copy gain, about 518 kilobase pair, corresponding to the long arm chromosome 15, band 11 subband 2 was also identified. Dual diagnosis detected through the whole exome, dual duplications detected through the whole exome, and also the confirmations according to this large size was done via the microarray. We see again the basal line expected from this region is 0. Above the line, the green dots indicating duplications and increase in the amount of these regions corresponding to 1 copy gain of the short arm of chromosome 9. So again, the segregation analysis was surprising because the father was negative, the mother was confirmed to segregate the duplications of 518 kilobase pair corresponding to the cytoband region 15q11.2, and this syndrome also 15q11.2 pp1 pp2 microduplications has been reported to be having reduced penetrance with previous phenotypically normal carriers. This will be again a challenging case for the genetist and the genetic counselor to elaborate to the family this point, and also regarding the next pregnancy and options available for that. And also the confirmations for the case was done by a microarray, and this confirmed the duplications of this cytoband region for the mother. The fifth case is for 1-year-old female presented with dysmorphic features in the temporal hollowing, downward slanting bulbar fissures, failure to strive, flat occiput, iris hypopigmentations, optic disc pallor, and whole exome trios performed at Centogene, including the NG copy number variants for the index and the parents, and analysis detecting a de novo pathogenic deletions about 503 kilobase pair, corresponding to the long arm chromosome 17, band 21 subband 3, which is consistent with the genetic diagnosis autosomal dominant Colleen-Dervery syndrome. Confirmations of these large deletions was done via microarray, and here the basal line is 0, but this being a deletion, the dots and the blue dots and the blue line is below the expected, and this confirmed the decrease in the amount of these regions, the deletions and the pathogenic deletions corresponding to that cytoband area, and segregations was negative for both parents, so it was considered a de novo variant. So after taking you through journey with the technical details and demonstrating that through the case studies, we will come to the last part, which is discussing the publications and the papers focused on the role of copy number variants in increasing diagnostic utility of whole exome sequencing in different category of genetic patients. Starting this first slide, which is the sum of 3 papers and different categories. The first paper was published in 2017 at Genetic Medicine, including 2,603 patients with different large cohort of different genetic disorders. The second paper was focusing on those with epilepsy from 294 families and published in 2018 in Clinical Genetics. The third one was the role of copy number variants in unsolved clinical exome cases and how it's helped 74 cases to get a positive results, and were published 2017 at Genomic in Medicine. So the 3 studies concluded that between 2 and 10 increase in diagnostic utility by integrating the copy number variants and structural variants within the whole exome sequencing. This is very crucial to have a coupling of single nucleotide with the copy number variants in one platform. Also very important for precise and accurate genetic testing. The second slide will be considered with neurodevelopmental disorder. This important category of patients we see in most of our genetic clinics. They are representing the large portions, and most of them also are seeking to perform genetic testing and have many of them related to Mendelian disorders. So this study carried by our colleagues in Shanghai University, published in From Genetics 2019, and including 54 patients with neurodevelopmental disorders. They have 2 groups. One have conducted the trio whole exome with copy number variants, and the other without copy number variants, and the increase in diagnostic utility from 44.4 to 57.4, more than 13.8 increase in diagnostic utility. This highlighting also the role of the copy number variants in different specialties and different category of patients. For instance, also according to what previously published, that the role of copy number variants increasing diagnostic utility for intellectual disability disorders, reaching 58%. 58% can get a positive results from whole exome if they have incorporated the copy number variants within the exome analysis. The third publication and the third slide with the very interesting and very important, because the title is very striking, the role of copy number variant in autosomal recessive genetic disorders. It changed the old concept that most of us have regarding the correlations between copy number variants and chromosomal disorders. This is not true. This copy number variant had a role even in a very small deletion and in autosomal recessive at the level of the gene. The study was very recent in the last year, 2020, in the second half of the last year, and it included 70,000 chromosomal microarray and 12,000 whole exome sequencing. Out of this data, 70 cases have homozygous copy number variants affecting both alleles, and 17 have a copy number variant in conjunctions with other single nucleotide variants on the other allele. And so this 17 case was likely to have being reported at the carriers, needing further tests and to confirm and to reach the diagnosis. And this will, of course, cost them more money and have also time consuming. And also out of this data, 94.3% of this autosomal recessive copy number variants affecting one gene, 41.4 were single exon, 35 were multi-exon. This is a very small size of deletion duplications, very high resolutions of copy number variants we were not capable of detecting with the old conventional method via, for instance, microarray of LLPA. And this is very important to highlight the role of copy number variants, and through this study for emphasizing its importance in integration in the whole exome sequencing platforms for precise and accurate genetic testing. So I'm taking you through the importance, the impact on the patients, and through technical details. You can ask me after all that, what are the limitations? Of course, every technique had its own limitations, and the limitation is mainly related to the NGS analysis and the platforms of analysis itself, because the difficulty in approaching also in the analysis and in the detections of mutations in homologous regions, repetitive regions, CG-rich regions, and also for pseudogenes. Also, as we started the presentations with highlighting the features of our centrosome, we again highlighting the importance of the depth and coverage for detecting of true copy number variants. And this required for the tools which is available in the market for detections of copy number variants through the NGS data to assure high quality of coverage and depth, and that we are offering and structuring within our platforms in Centogenes through our centrosome. Also, the quality of the sample impact the copy number variant detections. The sample with low scanty or adequate amount of DNA can result in negative results or cannot be capable of detecting true calls and not informing and not resulting in acute coverage and depth for the sample. And also one of the very important problems is the interpretations and detecting of duplications. Duplications compared to the deletions is very difficult to detect, to classify, because it is harder to predict and to assume whether these duplications will affect the gene reading frame, the gene product affect the gene dosage or not. And also the precise detections of the breakpoints. Sometimes deletions or these duplications can be associated with more complex rearrangements, like for instance, inversions that cannot be detected via NGS platforms, especially for whole exome, but this may be that's not the same for the whole genome that can be capable of detecting the balanced rearrangements. So finally, I come to the summary and the take-home message about very important to highlight the role of copy number variants in the NGS platforms, its integrations with the single nucleotide variants for accurate and precise genetic diagnosis. It's capable of detecting different resolutions of copy number variants the precise detections of the breakpoints, and also whole exome with the copy number variants are capable of detecting unbalanced translocations, chromosomal aneuploidy. Finally, I would like to thank all my colleagues in Centogene, those in the corporates, in the headquarters in Rostock, Germany, and in USA, those are the more than 600 employees, our regional representatives covering most of the contents of the globe. I would like to thank them all. As you see, we are different nationalities. We have different mother tongues, but we are all talking one universal human genetic language. We are all committed to serve our rare disease patients worldwide, to help to decrease their suffering, to a diagnostic odyssey, and to committed to change our huge analytic informations into medical solutions for them. Thank you, and I would like also to thank you all for your patience and listening. It will be my pleasure also to help you through any question that you have.
Thank you, Heba, for sharing your knowledge with us. Let us now move to the question and answers part of the case study. So the first question that we receive is, according to your presentation, a traditional microarray can be replaced with a whole exome sequencing with CNV. Is this right? Do you think that the clinical algorithms are going to change?
Okay. By the way, I think that the limitations, according also what I see from experience and the practical use of the physicians on the ground, that the chromosomal microarray options now is limited, maybe limited to detections of uniparental disomy, loss of heterozygosity in cancer purpose, and also it can, of course, it's capable of detecting precise, accurate breakpoint detections within its resolutions, but on the floor, on the ground and the practical use, many physicians prefer to start with whole exome with copy number variants instead of starting with the chromosomal microarray, became negative and then proceeding to whole exome. As we discussed how it is capable of detecting different resolutions of copy number variants, have the capability also to detect single nucleotide within the deletion duplications in one test. So yes, by the time I think the guidelines will change. The chromosomal microarray will draw back, especially with the improvement in the pipelines and the tools of the copy number variant detection through the NGS platforms, and improving its sensitivity for detections of true cause of deletion duplication mutation.
Another question says, many thanks for your presentation. We have sent several WES cases in the past 5 years to Centogene. Can you detect CNV variants in reevaluation? I mean, is it possible to detect CNV from data already collected, or it is only for new WES?
Actually, this is a frequent question that we have. We receive it in the customer support and also at the liaisons. This will be mainly depending on the time the test had been performed. If it is the recent time, like for instance, nearby 2020, in the first half of 2020 and 2019, with the availability of the BAM files, this can be possible. But in case it is a very pretty far or pretty from 5 years or almost many years, and without the availability of the BAM files, I think this will be difficult. But it's better to first communicating with our customer support, our representatives worldwide, regional representative, to make sure of that and to have this information.
Right. Another question says, is it possible to order a prenatal VES plus CNV?
Again, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sorry. Is it possible to order a prenatal whole exome sequencing plus CNV?
Okay. Also, this is a very good opportunity to highlight this point. According the guidelines of the European Committee and the European Society of Obstetricians and Gynecology that we are strictly following in Centogene, this is not possible. Still, there is a scanty of data available about the sensitivity of the copy number variants in prenatal testing. There is many publications regarding that field. And as we know that the results will be focus, and also will be depending on other decisive decisions, will be built on our results, like for instance, elective terminations. This is not allowed according to the guidelines, so we're not offering, but according to the guidelines, we have to make sure of this deletion duplications, and this can be reached through the chromosomal microarray that we offer through the prenatal testing. So I have also additional questions here in we can go through one. In a patient with neurodevelopmental disorder and exome plus copy number variant negative, should I continue my study with array? According to, this is also very interesting to highlight also the role of whole genome sequencing. Previous publications have demonstrated the upper hand of whole genome on array and whole exome. So in this case, I prefer that we can proceed to the whole genome instead of having negative array, and still we have possibility of intronic mutations, and resolutions and breakpoints cannot be detected with the array. So it's better in this case, in case I'm suspecting that he is a genetic, with the clinical, of course, based on clinical presentations, family pedigree, that it is a genetic neurodevelopmental disorder, and I have already performed exome and copy number variants, that I can proceed to whole genome sequencing. I think this all the questions that I had till now.
Okay, so one more time, thank you, Heba, for sharing your insights. And thanks to all of the participants for joining to this case study. We hope you were able to gain useful information. And now we are going to launch a poll to receive your feedback on this case study. So please take some minutes to fill it out. And thank you one more time for attending. We just want to let you know that on 27th of January at 2 p.m. CET time, we will have our second case study from this year. The title is Whole Genome Sequencing, a First-Tier and Comprehensive Genetic Test. We will wait you. Thanks one more time. Bye.
Thank you all for your patience and listening once more. Stay healthy and stay safe. And finally, you can reach me if you have any additional questions regarding the presentations or anything via my mail, which is available on the screen, heba.hosni@centogene.com. Thank you all.